Hey everybody, it is your favorite comic book artist's favorite comic book artist, John Anthony Chihak Soltero. You can call me Jax. Some people call me Jack. I'm not sure why. The S initial is clearly there. But today I am painting the Chucky print that I had ready to go. Unfortunately, not at Gathering of the Ghouls. It would have been perfect if I had finished this in time for Gathering of the Ghouls because Alex Vincent was there. Also, would have been great if I had it at Tucson Comic Con because Christina Lease was there. But it is Chucky is a fan favorite, and honestly, he has become my favorite horror movie character. Started out, my favorite was Jason Voorhees, then it was Leatherface. Chucky was always in contention. He was like third or fourth on there. I can't really remember who else might have been near the top if it wasn't Jason or Leatherface. But I would say now it's Chucky, Jason, and then Leatherface is third. And honestly, and I know I'm probably going to get flack for this. Like Freddy's not in my top three, obviously. Michael Myers not in my probably not in my top five. Pinhead, maybe in the first movie. Um, and sometimes I do these videos where I talk about like my technique and what I'm doing, but I'd already penciled and I'd already inked this piece, and I had it on display at Gathering of the Ghouls. But I believe, yeah, I think I had them finished and ready to go for Horror Fest. That's right, because I did pick him up on the way to Horror Fest, and that's kind of like some of the only uh, you know convention or art-based news that I'll talk about on here. Yeah, Chucky is honestly, he's got to be my favorite for a number of reasons. One, just the basis of like the Chucky series and how the movies have evolved. And there was a lot of discussion about how a lot of horror movies, they get stagnant or they decline in terms of quality, storytelling, character development, those sorts of things over the course of the franchise, especially with characters like Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees. Like, because they don't talk, there's not a ton of room for character development. And in a lot of these movies, you also don't get survivor continuation, right? Um, Nancy was one of them in Nightmare on Elm Street, and then you had Tommy Jarvis, who got played by three different people in the Friday the 13th series. But in all honesty, like the Chucky movies became better and better as they went along. In fact, part two is probably my favorite horror movie, and it's definitely my favorite in the Chucky franchise. So the TV show was huge. I love that. I love the way they did the new characters, but they kept in continuity and how they kept, um, just keeping the characters going. And you had Andy and you had Kyle. You brought them back. Nika stayed in the picture. Tiffany stayed in the picture. You got Glenn and Glenda. You even had mention of Gigi. You didn't have a lot to do with Gigi, which I think would be great because I've heard there are talks of another movie or another couple of movies. And also, from what I understand, Brad Dourif, 100% retired with okay, 95% retired and will only come back for Chucky based projects. Um, the TV show was great. I understand, it got canceled because of, the cost associated with it in the puppeteering and everything that had to be done. The sets were amazing. I love the fact that they kept bringing back a couple of the actors for each season, playing multiple roles. That was a fun touch, and just overall, like bringing in some new young actors to take on the franchise as it moves forward. Whether or not we get those much deserved and much wanted sequels, in place. Hopefully that's the case. I would prefer if they did it in movie form. rather than going back to television. I think you could do one or two more movies and you could completely and totally finish the storyline, right? I think you would be able to do that. Don Mancini knows what he's doing. But one of the cool things is like I got to meet Brad Dourif, Fiona Dourif, Christina Leese, and Alex Vincent all last year. And what Child's Play has meant to me in terms of horror and how much I love the characters and what I've done with my own characters is it just means a whole lot, right? Because I had watched horror movies when I was a kid, uh, like single digit. And after a while, they really started to sit with me, and started to like hang with me, and I would get scared and have to reach around the corner to turn on the light, or like try to jump in bed before the lights went out, kind of thing. All these things where you normally would like see how those things work with a child's mind. Junior high, seventh grade. I'm 12 years old. I decided I would give horror one more chance to see if this was something that I'd like or stick with or what have you. And I went to the Circle K around the corner from our house that I grew up in. And at that point, at least, I don't know if more Circle Ks did it or if other convenience stores did it, but like this shop had a movie rental section, and my mom had signed like a release or whatever saying like he can rent whatever he wants. He doesn't have to get permission or have me there, kind of thing. So I was like looking through on a Friday night, and I found Child's Play, um, and I was just like, okay, read the synopsis, looked at the pictures, looked at the cover, and I was just like, all right, well let's see what this is all about, right? Took it home, watched it, and I was hooked. Hooked on horror, and obviously Chucky became my favorite after quite a long period of time. But it was Child's Play that really brought me into loving horror, and that's another big reason why uh, Chucky is my favorite character. Maybe I should do like a video where I break down like some of my other favorites and like maybe my top five or whatever. But I really love this piece. I kind of wish I had done a larger size piece, but this is what is this? This is 9 by 12, I think, watercolor board, and just had a lot of fun with him, and ended up turning this into an 8.5 by 11 inch print. Wasn't available as like a larger size print, like almost all of my other prints. Chucky and the Akira pieces are going to be the only ones that are the small base prints outside of like the Bubba Patrol corner boxes. Those are also like 9 by 12s. Um, but I had a lot of fun with this. I honestly wish I had time lapsed the second part, or not the second part. Like, so I scan the finished watercolor piece, right? And then I blood splatter them. And I wish I had time lapsed that as well so I could just add that into here. Um, but yeah, this is my Chucky piece. Hope you guys like it and appreciate it, because I definitely really love making them. I'll let you continue on the end of this with no more commentary. Take care.